Good morning. This week we're going to discuss book 3 of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. You know, like I said before, I really can't talk about the entire story until I finish all the books, and I'm only right now about a third of the way book 4. So, we're not going to do my normal, thing here, but I'm also going to kind of not try and give away any spoilers, but also try and talk about all the events that I think are important in this book. And there are a lot of events that are important in this book. So anyway, what's this book about? Well, Carl and Donut reach fourth floor in this book, and they actually reach floor four. Ugh, try and say floor four times in a row. Anyway, basically this floor is called the Iron Tangle. It's a interlocking series of different train systems, different types of trains, that kind of stuff, and it's presented as a puzzle to all the different crawlers to try and find their way to a set of stairs. And of course, the stairs won't open on this floor until 6 hours before the floor collapses. So, even finding the stairs early won't help them because they can't use them. So basically, it starts out with Carl and Donut trying to find their way through. They run across another character called Katia, who is part of another band of crawlers that were following a woman named Hekla. Hekla is kind of an Amazonian princess. In real life, before this all started, she was a psychiatrist from Iceland, where Katia is from. Anyway, Katia becomes a part of Carl and Donut's party, and she's a shape shifting person. That's the race she chose on the third floor. And they proceed to go through. They slowly integrate themselves together, and let's be blunt, Katia is becoming Carl's love interest in this book. It's pretty obvious, but I don't want to scoot over how much character development Princess Donut gets. At one point, Princess Donut kills another crawler, and it's one of the more interesting character beats with her. She's really becoming the main character of the series. I'm slowly starting to feel like this is almost like this series is called Dungeon Crawler Carl, but I'm starting to feel like maybe the series is more about watching the development of Princess Donut through Carl's eyes than it is about Carl. Because Princess Donut is going through a lot. And I mean, if you think about it, just literally, 3 weeks before this, Donut was this normal cat that was just going around to beauty pageant circuits. And now all of a sudden, she's a highly intelligent character that can speak and is a crawler on the same, considered on the same level as Carl. She's gone through a lot, and she's going through more, and she's developing really into one of the strongest characters in this book. I won't say too much about that, but she's really she's growing up. I mean, point blank, she's growing up at an accelerated pace. And I really like watching that. Another one that is developing a lot is Katia, because Katia starts out as a very reserved person. She doesn't like to talk. She really doesn't like to fight. And while she's there with Carl and Donut, she becomes a truly good character that's using the powers of her race that she chose in really interesting ways. And at one point, a really kind of fun way, where she can just like act as like a train cattle scoop and just kills a lot of these so-called mobs left and right. Really fun character. There's also a really big character beat with Katia and Hekla, and I don't know if I really want to get into that in this review because that would almost become a spoiler, but it does inform a lot of her self-actualization, I guess you would call it. Um, and I mean, one of the things I really want to dig into on the, also I should say at the very end, it's really kind of fun to watch all of the crawlers come together and help each other to find their way out of this. And a lot of them, some of them don't make it, but a lot of them do, and it's really kind of fun to watch. It's going to make a great TV series. But I kind of am starting to kind of feel like maybe I'm sensing some of the themes of these books. And one of the themes of these books is obviously growth and change, and how we become more powerful as we learn to accept, who we are. In the case of this book, these people are learning to accept who they are literally, because they're new classes of characters. They're no longer human. But I mean, at the same time, even ones that stayed the same, like Princess Donut that stays a cat, she is starting to become more powerful because she's accepting who she is and what she can do. And she comes off as a bubbly, kind of young, kind of teenage level character. She's actually much deeper than what she lets on. Same with Kadia. The one that's not doing that quite yet is Carl. And I think that's important to say, is that Carl started out this series as a pretty competent blue-collar guy. He's still a pretty competent blue-collar guy, even though he chose his race to be a primal. I have a feeling that's going to come into play later when he finally accepts all of these changes, and he's going to have to slowly make some decisions, I'm sure, later on. And I have a feeling that character development is going to come as a big thing a little bit later on. Probably not until later on in the series, but that's just my guess. So basically, as you can tell, I really like this book. It took me a little bit longer to read it because this book alone is about the same length as the first two books combined. So actually, this is book 3. Sorry, you're just going to have to accept that I said book 4 because I am reading book 4 now. So just deal with it. But honestly, go out and read this book. Go out and read this entire series. You're not going to be disappointed. I'm really enjoying how this series is developing, because one thing I really like about this is that there's a lot of action in it, and you're not going to be disappointed with the action. But the series also has the good sense to slow down and do character development every now and then. And that's a fine line to walk for any writer. And honestly, this series is nailing that really, really well. I'm really curious to see where these characters go, because while I can make some predictions, I predict Carl is going to accept his changes. He's not exactly fighting against the changes, but he's going to accept that he's changed a little bit later on. It's going to become as a big, climax beat. But also the slow flirting between Carl and Katya, and the huge growth of Princess Donut. Princess Donut is becoming one of my favorite characters in all of fiction. Of course, then again, I'm a cat guy. What can I say? But I'm really enjoying the series still. Definitely read these books. I can't recommend them highly enough. And from what I understand, Peacock is making this into a series for their streaming service. And of course, my first reaction was, "Wow, Peacock still exists." And I guess rerunning The Office is unprofitable enough for them to remain in existence. But honestly, this is going to make a great show. So whatever. I'm going to have to figure out how to shuffle around some subscriptions so I can watch it when it comes out. But definitely pick up the books, read them. You will not be disappointed. Until next week, have a great time. Bye-bye.